Welcome to the Bird Gang Nation Sports Media Show, repping the greatest team of all time. Let's go! Bird Gang 31, he be the host with the most. We going deep, burning teams. They ain't nothing but toast. It's Senior Estes. Sirianni put me in coach, running like Miles Sanders Hill. I bumped my head on the post. Touchdown! Yeah, that's coming. Devontae's crazy route running. Jalen hurting them, throwing lasers to Rager, young gunning. Come on! On the D side, we ride, sack him with Fletcher, lay him out on the stretcher. No one can protect you. Watch Darius lay him, shutting down your routes. Come on! In my green John, eating Philly cheesesteaks. Put up your cups, wings up, if you can relate. Tailgating at the link like Gangsta Stride. To the Bird Gang Nation, that's worldwide. On Sundays, catch the pre and post game. Mondays is Birds on Broad Street with Philly Notion and Cool Cat the Man in Motion. And Wednesdays, the midweek special got you open with JC from Eagles Talk, hitting like B-Dog, baby.
Welcome to another edition of Bird Gang Nation Sports Talk. I'm your host, Bird Gang 31. Today, Nation, we brought a very special guest back in the house. It's Chris Franklin from NJ Media, here to talk about them birds today. How you doing today, my guy?
What's up, Bird Gang 31? Been a while, man. How's everything going, man?
Man, it's been a minute, my guy. Like a long minute. I miss my guy. Like, man, I gotta get back on here and talk to my boy Chris, man. It's been a while, but I'm happy you're able to, squeeze in the time. I know you're a busy man over there. The season started, all the info, the juicy gospel going around, trying to find that next story. Man, how has it been for you over there?
Not bad, man. It's been hectic, man. Between everything going on transaction-wise to preparing, like still looking at like college thing because the team looks like it's going to have 3 draft picks. Everything else, man, it's been crazy, man. It's never a dull moment with the Eagles.
Right, never, man. You should see, man. I've been up and down. Like every week, I'm like, we're winning. And there's been a lot of those weeks I felt bad, like, man, we didn't win. And last week was one of them, man. So what have you seen with this team? Let's go back to our first couple of shows. We talked about the team. I know you're more optimistic. Like I was a little bit more optimistic than you were about the team. But have any of those, things changed with you since, the earlier shows?
I didn't think this team would be as physical as we've seen them be, especially in the last like 5 weeks. I mean, I thought it was going to be a lot more passing, a lot more throwing the ball, airing the ball out everywhere. But looking back on it now, this team has found success going back to its bread and butter with basically follow that offensive line, ram the ball down the defense's throats, control the ball, and do well. I think defensively, I was a little more bullish on the defensive line, maybe getting a few more sacks than they have. And you look at it now, they're playing more of a read-react, more of a let's see where the play is going, and then in pass rushing, that's where I think you see the sack totals are down. So I thought there would be a lot more sacks and a lot more quarterback hits and pressures as opposed to what we've seen this year, as we've seen in previous years. But overall, I have to give Nick Sirianni credit. I think that when you look at the team from what I thought, I had them finishing with 7 wins this year. Mm-hmm. And it looks like they're going to finish maybe with that or a little bit higher. But somehow, I mean, they're only a half game back out of the final wild card spot. So you never know, especially you never know once you're in. I mean, granted, they'll probably have to play the Rams or the Cardinals or the Packers or something like that and travel on the road and be on the road for a whole entire price if they get in. But
I'm hoping we do, man. I still have not lost faith. That Giant game kind of stuck me. I was like, oh, no, you did not just lose to the Giants, my guy. Let's talk about Nick here, man. Are you like everybody else? Are you seeing Nick develop as a head coach and a play caller? Like, 'cause I think the whole beginning, he was not doing a good job. I felt like he wanted to be really pass heavy, what I'm saying? Come out just firing the ball and hit. It took him a while to realize that we are a running team, man. We're too physical. We got great running backs that we need to run the ball a lot more to set up some of those nice passes that he has. Like, what have you seen and how have you seen the growth of Nick Sirianni this season?
I think when I look at it, I think about this way when I first started as a writer and reporter. Because I first started, I'm like, I'm going to be this type of reporter. I'm going to cover this type of story. I'm going to do it this way, this way, this way. And then when you finally get into the pool, the deep end of the pool, you're like, oh wait, I can't really do things like this, or I got to change the little things and start adapting. And you start to see the same thing happening right now with Nick Sirianni. I think he's listening to the players more. I think he's adapting saying listen more, because I think he did a great job with that, especially in training camp. But I think he's adapting to what his personality he has right now. And he said to us plenty times recently as well too, when it comes to the past and recently, he looks at like what his dad did when he was coaching. When it comes to doing the personnel, he always mentions how his dad won a state championship with the wing team, won it with the spread, running with the different various formats. It was one of those things. And I think he's starting to finally adopt that when it comes to this offense. To the point now, they're balanced enough when quarterbacks are healthy, which we'll probably get to later on, but they're balanced enough so that when you attack the teams have to respect the run. So you drop the safeties in the box more. And then you have a lot of stuff on the outside, frees up one-on-one coverage against like Devonta Smith or Dallas Goedert. So that balance is really truly helping the offense out, and he's always had the great communication with the players. I mean, the players have bought into what he's saying. I mean, I know a lot was made about the flower reference, and
I loved it. I was like, but that's what made me back. I was like, we finally sprouted. We finally sprouted, but then he came back with last week's game where the offense just looked garbage. Yeah. Garbage, man.
And we heard that he wanted to use a bamboo, but I agree he didn't want to use a bamboo because 5 years later, like, wait, you don't finally see it sprout till 5 years later? You might be around 5 years if you don't see any improvements. So I know he took some shots on that, but I think overall, when you're looking at like the overall job he's done, especially for a first-year head coach, it's not too bad, and he's continuing to improve.
And especially if we make the playoffs, man. Like, your first year making the playoffs, regardless if it's 9 wins, 10 wins, 8 wins, we make it there to the dance. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty good accomplishment for any first year. Like I say, our offense is really young. From the coaches to Jalen to, the receivers are really young. The running backs are really young. Our linemen that we have playing in right now, besides Kelsey and Lane Johnson's really young, So it's like you kind of had to expect some of them bumps to be in the road there. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't expect so many early. I feel like a lot of those games, like most games too, would you agree that most of our games we even lost, we lost those games. It wasn't that the team was more talented to beat us. It's kind of like we lost them from penalties, just not executing the offense well or not executing the defense well at those times. That we had opportunities in like pretty much every game we lost, maybe except for the Dallas game. That was a good whooping. But, other than that, like all the other games, I feel like we should have won those games. We had the talent to win those games. We just weren't put in the right position to win them.
I think when you look at especially when you just look at the overall season, I think the 49ers game, that was one. I know the Chiefs game, I know the Chiefs jumped out to that big lead, but I think that's when you look at the way the Chiefs were playing at the time, if they didn't basically make a couple of those issues, especially at the end of the first half, I think you have a whole different outlook of who knows what happens. That Charger game's for sure. They should have beat the Chargers in there, and I think they should be Giants. That's 4 wins right there. You put 4 wins, you add 4 wins to that column. Now you're talking about you're fighting for the NFC East lead, and you're pretty comfortable in there. You're pretty comfortable in the playoffs picture, and you're having a whole different conversation. People probably talk about Sirianni Coach of the Year, especially taking over a roster like this, but it comes with it's a growing process. You have so many young players in key positions, quarterback, wide receiver. You have now your left guard. I mean, I still count. I know Jordan Mailata's been in the league now for a few years now, but I still count him as a young player experience-wise.
Yeah, he's still young.
Yeah, there's so many young spots everywhere. So you have to when you look at it, you're like, okay, you see there's pieces to work with. It's just a matter of if the team can continue to develop those pieces to do well.
Hey, my boy Hunter said, how do you feel about Brett Toth taking those center reps an emergency for Jason Kelsey. We definitely don't want to see Herbert back there. He needs to add that guard spot. I feel like he even should have been at guard spot before, Driscoll was there. You know what I'm saying? I just think his body type more. Driscoll more of a tackle. He looks like a tackle, the body structure like a tackle. And I felt like maybe he should have been playing that guard spot over Driscoll before, but now Driscoll's hurt and he has to play it. So I also seen that we got someone else back to the practice squad too, Luke Dorigo. Is that what it
Juriga.
is?
Yeah, Luke Juriga. Yeah, he was with them
Yeah.
last year. But getting back to Tough, thanks for the question, Hunter. When you look at Tough, I think it's an adjustment. I mean, especially for him being able to play now, seems like apparently play every position now along that offensive line. It's a benefit for versatility wise. I still can't believe Tough moved into guard, because beforehand, all these years he was a tackle, and seeing him at guard, especially in that last preseason game against the Jets, he did all right there. And I think that's what got him that roster spot. I think if it's an emergency, I'd be okay with him playing that. I still think your best option right now with Jack Anderson being on an IR, Herbig's still is still your best option, because even though I think Herbig's more of a natural, I agree with you when it comes to Herbig being more of a fit at right guard. I think he did better last year as a guard. I thought when that opening game when he had Herbig and Driscoll, that combination on the right side when they opened up against the Washington football team, I thought you saw some good things there. Herbig's more of a guard, but in a pinch, I'd probably go with Herbig. I know you're still going like, oh, a lot of people going like, oh no, we don't see it, and he needs to work on his snaps. I know he had those. I know he had the penalties. I think he can rectify that stuff, because I think that was more positioning and where he was in his arm. That stuff can be rectified. I'm still a little concerned at times when it comes to the snaps, and he has to. I think it's one of those things where if he's starting and he knows he's going a week into it being the starter at center, he'd be fine. But when you're coming in cold like that, and then the way he's holding, like he's doing the new school way of holding the snap closer towards you instead of like the traditional way, and little things there, it's used to it. But I'd still go Herbig first before that, Jack Anderson.
Yeah, I think like even if you've seen it, like those penalties came at center. I just feel like you said, those last minute jumping in there. He got caught. He got caught slipping. I was like, don't turn to Barnett or the offensive side. You know what I'm saying? You get the penalties at the wrong time. Like, we don't care if you get the penalties on 1st and 10. We're in our own, side of the field, as opposed to being like in crucial moments where you take off a touchdown or you take off a long run from Jalen. You know what I'm saying? Those are the wrong type of penalties at the wrong time to get. But like I said, like I think he'll be fine, moving forward at the guard spot.
Yeah, I'll say one thing real quickly too. It's going to be really interesting to watch at late. It's probably going to come out either late tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. Watch to see who's elevated, because I think that could be a little key factor in the health of not only Kelsey, but also the health of some of the other guys as well too. So if you see Juriga come up, then I think it's when you start to put some yellow lights on, maybe going like, oh, Kelsey say he's playing.
Yeah,
he didn't practice today, but he's playing. But you may want to, just to see other spots along the line, you may want to see if Juriga's called up. It's like, oh, how good is that knee? Like, he'll probably play, but how long is he going to stay out there? So something to watch.
Yeah. Have we seen any sightings of Brooks?
I thought I saw him on the sideline a couple weeks ago, like just watching the game from set. Other than that, not practice wise. I mean, it's getting to the point now where you're starting to go, how serious was that pec tear? And especially with everything that's going on with that line, you lost Driscoll. You have you're onto basically your third option now. What's going on? And the only thing it's interesting. I thought it was interesting when Nick Sirianni whenever asked that, I said, all right, we have no new information. But then now they're saying we'll have information after the bye week. So I'm like, is he coming back? They're going to put him on IR for the season? It's tough. It's like, it's being closely guarded right now. And I really wonder, like, what's going on with that? I mean, I know the pecs, especially when you're lining, extending everything, you're extending when you're blocking, but it's past that time he was expected to be back. And I think it's something more, I think especially on that probably that Wednesday or that Friday after the bye week, we'll know. I think we'll know either way.
Yeah, man. I know. I thought he was going to be coming back, this week, but then I figured the bye week's there. If anything, it'd be after the bye week, to give him that extra week or two, to see if he can get back out there, But either way it goes, man, I think this is going to have to be like the last year with Brooks, but his contract might say otherwise. But this guy's 3 years in a row. You know, not really playing too many games for us. We can't keep having that. That's the same thing what JP did. Same thing Sean Jackson. All these guys that are good when they're out there, but if you don't get them out there very much, it doesn't really help the team very much.
And that's why I think you see a lot of depth being built along those offensive lines because, it's a physical position. You have a lot of older guys there, or some of the key spots. You have like Lane Johnson. He's starting to get up there a little bit. You have Kelsey there as well too. So think you're starting to see them building up in case. I like Coyote Osika. I like him as well too. I think that he has some ability there. But so they have on the practice, even down to the practice squad, they have guys who can come in. I think Sua Peta, I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Landon Dickerson or Lane Johnson said at one point Sua Peta's stock was hotter than Tesla stock because he's playing so well on the left guard spot. But they have depth there to fill in here and there. Now long term, yeah, but at least they're continuing. I wouldn't be surprised if they used one of their top. I'd probably say one of the top 5 or 6 picks on an offensive lineman to fill in that's versatile enough to play in one of those positions.
Yeah, I said if Carson does, one report I heard he already reached it, but then I heard someone say he's almost reached it. One more game, he reached it. Either way, we get that first round pick. I want to go 2 defense and 1 lineman. We just get an end, a linebacker, and either a guard or a tackle. One of those 2 with those first 3 picks in the first round.
I don't know. See, if I'm them, just salary cap, I'm thinking like future salary cap wise. I'm keeping those first, whatever the 2 highest ones are, and I'm dropping down. I'm dropping down to go collect some more picks, especially if you can get a future first round of 2023 to space out that. If you can find somebody who's, I don't know, if the Texans are really willing to really whatever assets they have left, and you got to figure they're not going to be that great next year, or another team like that, if they're willing to move up to get like a Malik Willis or somebody else, one of those quarterback needy teams need somebody, and the Eagles have been out there with the bluff, and people feel like they need to jump them. If I can get a couple of picks, like I say, I still get a first one, a second one, and maybe a future first.
But do you want to do that really though?
I
understand getting more picks, but I feel like we always do that though. We need some top end talent. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we need one of these boys, like you said, yes, if one of those earlier picks, right? So I want to jump up there, get a quarterback, just to move back a couple of spots. But I think the Eagles really need to use these 3 for 3 bona fide starters.
They can probably move. You still
3
probably
guys. Not. I know no one's a sure thing, but you know what I'm saying. Like their pedigree says they are sure thing locks. Because our defense needs a linebacker, defensive end. Another lineman. Those will be 3 quality spots. Or even if you don't get the lineman, go out there and get another first round receiver. Because I feel like we still need help at that receiver spot. We done spun 2 first round picks.
If I'm doing a plan right now, like just look, and this is completely early board, completely early board. I look at the amount of talent when I start to see around when it starts to get around that 12, 13. I think I see those are your bona fide, viable day one starters right there. And then when I get to 13, probably down to almost near 35, 36 in this draft, I think you can still find, as I still think they can find a lot. They can get like a Njoku. I think it's the guy from Georgia.
Dean.
I think if depending on the
my
teams
wish
around
list will be Thibodeau's, Dean, and then Drake London from USC.
London's not bad too. I think Thibodeau's going to be going either 1 or 2. I think the Texans are either going to go, if they don't go quarterback, which I hope for the Eagles' sake that he goes quarterback because that means somebody else falls down. I think Thibodeau's going in the top 6. I know Hutchinson's out there. He's been having a great season, but it's going to be Thibodeau, Hutchin, 1, 2, or somewhere in that order.
No.
I would be surprised, like, say, like Ahmad Gardner, Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati. That's a guy I like. Kyle Hamilton's a guy I like. Karafidis, if he's down from Purdue, I wouldn't mind him if he's around there, around like the 8-9 where they're currently picking right now. But I think once you get past 13, 14 in this one, when you start getting, like, say if that Indianapolis Colts pick, especially if they make the playoffs, like 20, they can fall down to 30.
That's what I'm saying. Both of them, team Miami and Colts, keep winning. Like, they need to stop winning already. We're gonna have 3 picks in the 20s.
It's crazy. Remember, it's crazy. It's like at one point they had the 2nd, the 5th, and the 8th. You're just like, this could be that could have been a franchise like changing. That defense would have been sick, but
but financially though, that helps out. That the more the numbers go down. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I just really want them to keep. If you can do one of the moves like last year, how we keep a first round and get a first round for next year just by moving back like that, I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
that's what I'm
saying?
talking.
But
Yeah,
I still want 3 picks in that first. You know what I'm saying? I think we need to do it. This is the year. Whether you get the line, I really think we need to get a linebacker for sure. Like you said, Dean, that's who I want. I want Dean, first round pick. And I heard there's another linebacker out there. I think he's an Iowa linebacker or
Iowa's decent. Kentucky has one that I really really like. I forget his name, but Kentucky has a guy I like as well too. I think that as long as they don't drop past the second round, and I mean the high second round, that's where I'd probably go and take if you're going to take a linebacker. I don't think this. I just think the way that everything's being built, the Eagles' philosophy is usually the shell, defensive ends, cornerbacks, linemen, wide receiver, quarterback, the shell, the outside shell, and the linebackers, especially. I see what they see in Davion Taylor with athleticism, but
he gets hurt too much.
There's an injury concern there. TJ Edwards has proven he deserves to be back for another season, and he's proven to be a lot. If we were talking earlier about things we didn't expect, I didn't expect TJ Edwards to be that good in coverage. He's improved from that immensely, and I think he's getting to the point where he's a 3-down linebacker. You look at Singleton. He seems, granted, and I know I've seen the knock that some people are saying he's getting his tackles when the guy's already 7, 8, 9 yards down the field, but he's still tackling the carrier, and he's on pace for another 100 tackle season, and he's leading his team and is among the league leaders in tackles. So he can at least get the guy ball downfield. So I look at those three. I'm not saying they're going to be, hey, there's your 3 going into next season, but I think the team looks as that way, is like they have that, and they don't have to. It's not a pressing need at the moment. That's why I think as of right now, that's what I think. That things can change, but that's why
my deal is like if you got that record, that game-changing linebacker, you can keep those guys. Run your 4-3. You know what I'm saying? Keep Edwards, keep, Singleton out there so they can do what they do good, coverage and, clean up the mess. But you need that physical present, the leader of the defense in the middle of the field, a trotter type. One of those guys that's just coming out there, one of these big young guys that you just go, hey, or even like a Cowboys Parsons, you know what I'm saying? Like someone that you can use to be, devastating on defense and actually make an impact, hit these guys behind the line of scrimmage type player, and then you'll be set. I feel like you only need one. You don't really need, if you got that one, you won't have to worry about having like 6. How many linebackers we kept? Like 6, 7, this year. You wouldn't have to worry about keeping so many of them, trying to mix them in and match them, trying to find out which 2 work together, that type of thing. You automatically know that this guy's your starter. Boom. Off jump, and then now you can fill those other 2 roles up whenever you need to. You got, like you said, Edwards does deserve another year. Singleton is a tackling machine, but he plays better if he comes in the game as opposed to being there the full 3-down linebacker.
If anything, I think they need a guy who, if when they play the 4-3 under, somebody who can replace Jannard Avery, especially because there's times, and you're starting to see teams doing this now. They'll put somebody in motion and have to bump Avery out 1-1, and usually it tells like, if you're going to go man to man, I'm going to target him right there. Or if you're going to, even if he goes zone and you drop him back in zone, I'm seeing who's going to cross in front of his face and I'm targeting that area. That's, especially the Chiefs did that. Especially I think they had Jannard Avery one time on Tyreek Hill. It's like,
yeah.
If I'm like, there it is. Right. That's the part I'm going at. But I think that if I had to say, if there's any position linebacker wise, I think they need a new Sam. I think that guy, the under linebacker. I think that's where I think they really truly need to upgrade at it.
Yeah, man, I agree, man. But I said, we wait so long in the draft to draft these guys. You know what I'm saying? These are developmental players. Like, it's time to stop worrying so much on development, just find a sure thing. You know what I'm saying? The guy's going to be with your franchise for the next 10 years, be your middle linebacker, lead the way where you don't have to worry about, getting nobody unless there's some free agents I don't know about that's going to be available this offseason at the linebacker position.
Yeah, even then I'm like, because I think I was looking at earlier today. I think they got like $14 million right now, but I think they can roll over some of that cap from this year, and I think they have like $18 million right now. So they're pretty much like unofficially they have like $32 million to play with. So that's a good chunk of change to work with. I mean, I don't know who you extend. I got this gut feeling that they're going to reach out to Barnett. I just got that something in my guts telling me they're going to reach out to Barnett because they like him a lot. And inside, and I don't know if you guys saw the pictures that were taken last week or a week before that. They like the way that he played. I mean, that Denver game, they have fat heads along the back wall inside the indoor practice facility of the players of the week. So they have the offensive player of the week, defensive player of the week, special teams player of the week. Derek Barnett won the Denver game, was on there twice, once for defense and one for special teams. I think they like what he can bring. I think they like what he brings. I think they like the pressure. To me, there's just so many times where he has the
brain,
like better words, the boneheaded penalties at a time. So I wouldn't be shocked. Somebody's going to offer him a lot of money. I think the best thing, I think a lot of Eagles fans will want to hope for, is that somebody offers Barnett a lot of money, and the Eagles just say, you know what, nah, we're not going to touch that, and Barnett goes somewhere else and performs there.
Yeah, man. I heard you saying that about it, because that's what I wanted to ask you. What is it that you said earlier about the reason why you think these guys on the front line aren't getting these sacks anymore? Did we switch up a defensive scheme or something?
It's more of a read and react. I mean, it is right. When with I don't say Jim Johnson. No, Jim Schwartz. It's me. Jim's the defensive coordinators. But when Jim Schwartz, when he had that wide nine, when those defensive ends, their only thing was, hey, okay, make sure nobody gets outside you in the run game, rush the passer, go upfield. I think, and Fletcher Cox mentioned this a little earlier, said he's so used to being more aggressive in the defensive schemes that he has beforehand. The way that I think, and you see, it's changed a little bit. It's tweaked the last couple of weeks. It's tweaked a little bit where they're going upfield a little bit more. But beforehand, Gannon had them being a little bit more reactionary, seeing, okay, where's the run going? If there's a pass rush going, and then react and say, okay, this is what we have to do. Bam, bam, bam. And that's why I think one reason why you think you see the sack total down. I think it's more reading instead of just saying, okay, go after the guy. Now that's changed in recent weeks because you see not only is he letting Cox and Hargrave just go upfield like they did last year, you're starting to see that double A gap blitz. And I've been waiting for that for a long while now because Gannon comes from the Mike Zimmer tree of defense before he was with Mike Zimmer before he was with the Colts. And the one thing that Zimmer does very well is he likes to play with the quarterback's minds, and the protections is getting pressure up those A gaps because it gets tell you when you see two guys coming in that middle of the A gap at your quarterback, you're like, there's a word I can't use right now because it's a family show, but you try to roll out that way and we're trying to roll out. So you're starting to see a little bit more. I mean, the one thing I will say Singleton does, he's a good blitzer up the middle, and he finds the little cracks and he can affect the pressure that way. And you're starting to see that a little bit more and starting to affect it. Now, the thing that has to happen is they got to tighten up on the back end. They're using a lot more zone blitzes too. And I don't know about you, but I kind of feel a little weird seeing Johnny drop back, or seeing Derek Barnett drop back into a zone real quick to try to throw some things off. I'm more of the old school. Okay, just go after him. If you're going to somebody sit in a linebacker, don't try to get too exotic on that one. But I think you're starting to see a little bit changes there, and it's helping a little bit. But they still need to. It still seems to be a disconnect of not they get pressures, but it doesn't end up and wind up being sacks.
And I feel like he does need to really evaluate that. You know, which guys are you actually dropping in coverage? You know what I'm saying? None of the front four ever need to drop in coverage, ever. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to see these guys. Who are they going to cover? Like, for real. Like, what, when you think of that play call, like, who do you really expect them to cover? They're not as fast as the tight ends. They're not as fast as the running back. They're definitely not as fast as receivers. So, you know what I'm saying? You're leaving gaps inside your defense that these other teams have been taking advantage of all season.
And here's a scary thought. I don't think it will be, but say if weeks 18 comes down to the Eagles Cowboys and they call a zone blitz, you got Tony Pollard running a Texas route in the middle of the field, and then you drop back, say Fletcher Cox, or you drop back Derek Barnett or Ryan Kerrigan. If I'm Dak, I'm looking going, well, I know where I'm going. And he's throwing it the right way. You better hope that safety, and that's another thing too. I didn't mention that Avonte Maddox is doing a good job coming off the corner or edges on those blitzes too.
You've been playing
so
good.
You better hope Maddox gets there right before Dak throws that ball, because that could be ugly.
Yeah, man. What do you think about why Kerrigan hasn't been doing anything this year?
I think he's they signed him a year too late, and I think he's just on the decline. And I mean, Jonathan again's defending him, saying he's doing what he's asked to do. He's playing technically sound. He's affecting the game, impacting the game, playing it contained. But I just don't see that same explosiveness the same way like we saw a couple years ago when he was.
Or even last year, he had 6.5 sacks last year.
Yeah, it's something. I just don't see that same explosiveness out of him, and I think they got him a year too late. And for what they're paying for. It was just, to me, it was a weird signing. The whole entire thing was just weird to begin with because especially it's like they were caught in the middle of thinking, okay, we're a team that's just contending to a team that's trying to build. It was a weird signing, especially if they were a team trying to be developmental in aspects and not thinking about, hey, playoff. Are you bringing Kerrigan in? And then the fact you brought Kerrigan in and he's doing what he's doing in his defense is basically, it's not really truly getting a lot of pressure. It's at this point, you might as well just have him play for linebacker, but he's not a true linebacker. To me, he's an edge rusher. And he's not. The one thing he's trying to do is supposed to get sacks and pressures. He's not doing that. So at this point, I'd rather see Teron Jackson get more run, or I'd rather see Teron Jackson get more run. Pretty much,
right? Yeah. I see that is the guy.
Or Patrick Johnson. Patrick Johnson, he's a linebacker, but he's got experience playing defensive end, and he can get around the edge pretty good. I know he's backing up Jannard Avery in that Sam role, but I wouldn't mind seeing him. He's got the skill set. He's got the pass. He's got different pass rush moves that I'd like to see. He's got that quickness too, so I wouldn't mind him putting in there. But I think they would just want Johnson to concentrate strictly on linebacker. But Kerrigan is not giving him anything.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, my guy. 3 weeks ago, everybody was on the Hurts train tough. It started to really build momentum. He had a bad game last week. What do you make of Jalen Hurts so far? Because I remember you were on the fence about him too as well going into the season. Has he changed your opinion about him at all?
I think he's progressed very well, and I'd even go as far as say I think he should be back for 2022 because the way I see the landscape shaping out, I personally wouldn't trade 2 or 3 draft picks for Russell Wilson. I think he's a little bit older, and his team. If his team had everything else in place, and the only thing the Eagles say is we need a quarterback, then I think you make the move. But they're not there. There's so many other needs. So I think that's out. Deshaun Watson wants to go to Miami. It's Miami or Carolina. I think he's going to go Miami because he's got business down there. That makes it. So he's out. Aaron Rodgers' move makes no sense. I think he wants to either stay in Green Bay or go back to the West Coast. That's just no. So you take that away. Then you look at the QB class. I'm sorry, I don't like Corral. I think everybody has a lot of questions. And to me, Corral's the best quarterback in this class. And even then, I'm still like, I see too many question marks. I think he could be more of a system guy, that especially under Lane Kiffin. I think he's more of a system guy than anything else. And Lane's put him in a good position thing. Willis, I see. If you get Willis, I think you're just getting a younger version of Hurts 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And Pickett, I just see he's a dink. And I'm just not a big Pickett fan personally, but I think when you look at all that, you see what Hurts is doing. He's improved, because I still remember when he was started out with the accuracy when he was a rookie, going off his back foot so much. Now you see the way his footwork's gotten a lot better, and I credit Brian Johnson that. And you look at some of the throws, like he's at 61% right now on his completion, somewhere around there, I believe. I think it's enough to warrant him being back, and I just don't. I wouldn't trade all these assets away, and
you're trading assets away. You're losing money. You know what I'm saying? Like Hurts is what, second year in this rookie deal. Yep. You can even move that to a 5th-year option if you want to, right? And then you give him a guy like Russ and all those other guys too. They're not even like a long-term. 3 years from now down the road, we're gonna have to go back down this route with Aaron Rodgers and these guys. You know what I'm saying? Russell Wilson too. He's kind of falling off a little bit. Last year Seattle wasn't as dominant. He had the advantage of having that Legion of Boom make him look really good. Because he still got DK. He still got Lockett. You know what I'm saying? He still got some nice receivers, and you've seen he's only won 3 games this year.
And I think it's also important too to realize that it's tough for a quarterback to win the whole entire team, and the fact that Hurts has been able to do that, I think speaks volumes. You can get a guy who has a big arm, you can get a guy who's accurate with a semi-decent arm, but if you can't win over your whole entire team and have the whole entire team believing, especially that offense, what good it does? Then you're looking at Ryan Leaf version 2 or DeMarcus Russell version 2, whatever, what have you. I think there's something to be said about the fact that he's a second-year captain. I think the fact that the guys have bought in still believe him, even after that performance he had against the Giants. This guy still believe in him. So I thought there's something to be said there, and I think that's why he's going to be back in 2022.
And what do you make about him being top 10 in stats, like touchdowns, yards, whatever, for guys in his first 16, 15, 16 games? Do you think that really, to me, that shows you that the guy is developing? We know that he has growing to do. He knows that he has growing to do. But for me, that shows you that top 10 all time, my guy, that's like there's thousands of quarterbacks that's been through the league. You know what I'm saying? Like good and bad quarterbacks. And everybody wants to say garbage time stats. And why all those quarterbacks had garbage time stats? Guys like Peyton Manning, 16-16 his first year. Second year, like 28 interceptions. Like he's been taking care of the ball for the most part until last game with 3 interceptions. It's like for me, I feel like he's already said, done enough to show you that he deserves that shot. And keep letting them ride him out. Take it all the way through. Build, like you said, build your team all the way to the end of his contract. Then make the decision whether you want to keep him at your quarterback, or by then at least your team will be totally built around, and we will be, quarterback away.
And I think it's something. I'll give Doug Peterson credit because in that podcast, that Takeoff podcast he had with John Clark, he said something that was very true about Hurts. He's been through Alabama, through Oklahoma, through Doug Peterson's offense and Nick Sirianni's. 4 different offenses he's been through now, 4 different terminologies, 4 different route concepts and ideologies and everything else, how a quarterback should play and everything else. And the fact that you see all that, he hasn't had a lot of time to remain in one system, get comfortable with it, and grow with guys. And I think you have that situation right now in Philadelphia where if they bring him back next year, let him grow in the same system with Devonta Smith the same way. Let him grow with Quez Watkins. Jalen Reagor, that's a whole other issue, but we'll move on from that one. Let him roll with Dallas Goedert.
He has not had a starting line like most people do too. Last year when he came in, I think he played with the B team line. And even this year, a lot of key players of our line got hurt early. That San Francisco game, we lost Brooks. We lost Sayamalu. You know what I'm saying? So you got these guys, young guys stepping in and playing. It's like you have not even had the full arsenal of talent 2 years in a row. Well, 4 games in the, 13 games in this year, you know what I'm saying? To even say that, surround him with some good talent. You know what I'm saying? Like even our receivers, we all hope that they are great receivers. We think they have talent to be great receivers, but there's only one receiver right now that's even worth, you can say, okay, Devontae Smith's legit. You know what I'm saying? Like he does his thing. What's up? Quez, we say he's legit, should be number 2 receiver on the team, has all the potential in the world, but he don't get targeted. And then you got guys like Reagor in there playing, dropping touchdown passes back to back. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you think is the real problem with Reagor?
I think he'll say it's not mental. I think some of it is mental. I think I don't it's tough to point to things saying, hey, this is the one thing. I think it's a combination of a couple things. I don't know how. I think their receivers are all close, but I don't know. Seeing that the organization basically draft another wide receiver. If I'm in his position, I see the organization draft another wide receiver right after he took me in the first round. I'm going like, that's messing with my head. I see everybody continually telling me, hey, you know what, Justin Jefferson's better. That's in my head. You see that the production, the numbers are not there. You see that you finished in 2 of the last 4 games you played, you finished with negative yards overall. That starts to, I think, cumulative. And I think it may be a confidence thing at times with him. And I can't believe I'm going to quote the replacements, but the thing is like quicksand. I wonder if he's in quicksand right now and he's thinking like he keeps trying to dig himself out and just dig himself more. And I, at this point,
especially
right
when
now,
he came out and said it's just 2 balls. Like, man, are you serious? Like those, like how many receivers actually get the opportunity to have 2 game-winning catches, back to back like that? You drop both of those, my guy. Like that is a big deal. It's not just 2 catches. Like Jalen trusts you enough to throw the ball when you got a guy like Devontae Smith out there begging for the ball. The team trusts you to make that catch and put us in position to win the game, and you didn't do it, twice.
Yeah. And I will say this, like, even though Quez is doing a good job when he's getting the opportunities, there's still parts of his game that he has to clean up on. I think some of his route running, there were some instances where it affected some of the other throws where they went. So there was a couple plays that where Quez like didn't run the right route per se or right area, and that impacted it. Had to force Hurts to go somewhere else, and that led to it's a domino effect. It was a domino effect, and I think once he cleans that part of his game up, I think everybody thinks like, okay, Quez is just going to go deep. Quez is going deep. When he cleans up his other routes, especially the ones that are like the inside going, like the mesh routes and some of the post routes on the inside that affects everything else that are going around that area, I think he'll be a good number 2. I think he can be a good number 2. But
do you think he needs to be number 2 right now, though? Do you take snaps away from Rager and give to Quez?
I would, but I would. I'll put it this way: I would, but be relying on Dallas Goddard to line up more as a slot in the slot there, so or close by him. I think that's where you use Goddard. The attention to Goddard's drawing right now to free up Quez, or maybe that's the way you get Rager to come out this funk that he has. You use the brackets that are using to cover Goddard. You have Goddard go upfield a little bit, 5-10 yards, clear it out. You have Rager come on the inside and run across field to slant. An easy enough throw that he can, easy enough route that he can catch, and then turn up field and try to get some yards. Maybe that's how you try to save him. They have to find a third option because teams are starting to know that, if we take Smith away and take Goddard away, who's going to beat you? Who's your third option that's going to beat you? And right now, there's not a reliable one that's out there. Quez could be that, but
do you think these guys are getting used in the right situation? Like, I feel like Nick is still like, say you got 100-page playbook. I feel like he's still in the top 4 or 5 pages. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't feel like, I think there's a lot of more formations we could use. You know, you watch the games of all the other games of teams playing, you just see so many different things, you know, with their young receivers getting open different ways, scheming these guys open. Like, I just did a video with my buddy Gate City, shout out to you, about Quez and the difference between not Quez, Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle, you know what I'm saying, coming out of Alabama, and how they use them. Like, Waddle had a nice game last week, and they used him in so many different ways that I don't even see Devontae Smith getting used on our team. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Devontae Smith runs basically the same route. When he's open and he catches that ball, like most of his big plays come off that. You know, either you got trips or you got twin on one side. One's jetting up the field, he's cutting underneath. You know what I'm saying? If you watch a lot of his catches, that's the route he's running. The ends, those end routes. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's not a big variety of ways to get him the ball. Like, you know, do you see that too, or am I just tripping?
There's a lot more to the playbook than what you've seen, that we all seen on there. There's a lot more. Like Doug's play, I feel comfortable saying it because I didn't host it, so that one too. Doug's playbook was about 400 some pages long. It was that tense. It had little intricacies. Nick's playbook has a lot more stuff that he has in there, but for me, like, than what we've seen. But when you have guys lining up, having issues lining up in the wrong spots, guys aren't running the right routes, guys are having issues. You got to simplify it at times to make it easy enough so that these guys can just go, okay, let their athleticism take over. Because we saw what happened last year when you had a lot of these young receivers, like they were trying to process everything, like, oh, I'm supposed to go here to here to here, and it slowed them down. So I think Nick's philosophy is more, let these guys, you have to simplify it to begin with so they can get it down. But even then, you start to see there were so many. There was about like 3 or 4 times that I remember last week's game that they had to tell either mostly Rager to get into the right spot. They were shooting him, going, no, you're on the other side of the formation, and the play clock's down like to 8 to 7 seconds, and he's running across where he's supposed to be. If I'm an offensive coordinator or head coach or play caller, if I'm continually seeing guys not being able to line up in the right spots, even when it's a simplified stuff, I can't even open up the rest of the playbook to get to the other stuff they have deeper, because they flashed some stuff in training camp. They used it in a couple of games. I think in the Atlanta game, the opening game, where you had the diamond look, and you had Smith on the one side. If you had another viable option out there that knew that were consistently running the right routes, consistently knew what they're doing, that makes that team a lot of defense, because you have Smith singled up on the one side, you have Goddard at the top of the little bunch formation diamond, and you have like Gainwell or Sanders in the back as a running back. That's a lot to stress from here, but you can't run those exotic looks when you have everybody not doing what they're supposed to be doing on the base stuff.
But keeping it simple like that is giving the defense an advantage, because they know what you're about to run over and over again, and it's making it even harder for you to put these points on the board, even with the simple stuff. Like, you know, like sometimes you just gotta go for it. You know, call the play. You know, call the play and see what happens. Because if you continue to do this, at least it'd be something different for the defense. You know what I'm saying? At least you'll get that advantage back of some newness out there. I just feel like we're still getting stuck in that, you know, same thing over and over type thing. You know, and I'm tired. Like shotgun, we run shotgun, right? Single back, shotgun, empty back, and underneath the center, you know, Jalen Hurts go single back underneath. And those seem to be the only 3 formations on average we're using right now. And that's just not enough. I feel like, if we're in Pop Warner, that might work. But we're in the NFL, my guy. Like, you got to be able to open up formations and different things a little bit more than that.
I think it goes more. I think it opens up a bigger question when it comes to personnel itself. And that's where you start to look at, you have the right guys here. I truly think that if I'm the Eagles, I'm in the right position. Since you have 11 picks, you got a 4th, 5th, 6th rounder, and there's a veteran guy that's out there next year that's looking. Their teams are looking to move on. Since you have the space, trade him away to bring him in, because I think that's what's missing. Get a guy who knows how to run a right route, who knows what you want.
He's here. He's from. He's a Cowboy fan. Michael Flores. He said, "What about getting Gallup?"
I know he had that really big play against the Saints. That catch was really, really nice. I saw it still right before it came on. What's the name? His tweet. I saw the one with his feet just barely in, and he had this. That was a good catch. I think one of two things is going to happen. Actually, I think I'll just say the one. I think somebody's going to sign him to a big deal, and that's going to be to rich for Eagles blood, and they're going to have so many other places going to do. I think somebody's. I went as far as like a team like Pittsburgh. I can see a team like Pittsburgh, Baltimore maybe trying to get Lamar Jackson another weapon. I don't know how many years Emmanuel Sanders signed up with Buffalo, but having somebody alongside with Diggs, I think that could be an option too. I think they may have some cap space too. I haven't checked their cap.
Fitzgerald.
I'm shocked. I'm really shocked. Maybe that's a telling sign, but when Arizona said they weren't moving on, I know they got Hopkins, I know they had AJ Green and everything, but when they didn't bring him back, I think that's a telling sign. I'm shocked. I thought if somebody didn't sign him within the first few weeks, maybe that's a sign where he's at physically, and maybe it's time for him. And
what, did he get hurt last year? I didn't think did he play?
I think he played.
The Sheriff's like one of them Energizer bunnies, my guy.
He's getting up. He's getting up there.
His speed was never his thing. Right. He ain't never been a burner. He just gets open. He's like a technician, you know what I'm saying? Like, he finds the space in the defense. He got that veteran leadership, you know what I'm saying? And I even thought I was really on board with either A, getting OBJ, or even B, bringing Deshaun back. You see what kind of game he just had against the Cowboys, man. He deserves to be back here too.
I think Deshaun is looking for a ring, and if he came back here, he would not have that shot. I think because I think we're seeing the final years of Deshaun.
The Raiders.
At the time,
at
the time, they were one of the top teams in the West, and they were going to get a chance. And I think he wants to go look for a ring and still be a steady contributor. And the Raiders offered that, because the Raiders were, at the time when you had Ruggs, before they had Ruggs, but they were really rolling, and they had a shot to make the playoffs. Now, like, the wheels are starting to fall off, and it looks like the wheels are starting to fall off, even though they had the Thanksgiving win. But I just look at that. I think he's looking at that, and who's the other guy? I heard you say that Deshaun, but OBJ. I'm not touching OBJ with a 10-foot pole. Just seems like teams don't win wherever he goes. He's a big. He's a really, really big talent. But he's got injury issues like Jackson, and B, it just seems like wherever he goes, like, the mood in the locker room just shifts. I don't know what it is. He's probably the nicest guy too, but I don't know what it is. But he probably was like, yo, what's up? How you doing? Hey, what's up? Hey, it's cool, but. You see what's happening with the Rams since he and Miller got there. It's like that chemistry. I really think chemistry is very important on a team, and it seems like wherever he goes, it just something weird happens. But
yeah, that's true. OBJ is a head case. They said, which 3 rookies have impressed you the most this year?
Smith, obviously. I think Smith finds a way to get open, and he should have been targeted more last week, especially because I wish NFL Game Pass was up and running and working properly, because there were times where he had Bradbury beat a few times, and it just seemed like Hurts just couldn't find him, or that one. Not on that last play, that one too, because that would have been a tough throw for Hurts to make. But I think overall Smith's been good. Landon Dickerson, I mean, coming in here and learning Jeff Stoutland's the way Jeff Stoutland learns the scheme, and all of a sudden now, you look at that left side of that offensive line, you got something to build around, some bruisers. I was looking, Sharp Football Analytics. When the Eagles run behind hit behind Dickerson, they're averaging like 4.7 yards a carry. They run behind Mailata, they're averaging about 5 yards a carry. You got that. You got 333 pounds in Dickerson. You got another 368 yards in Mailata. That's really good. The third one,
especially if Brooks come back after the bye week, then you got Brooks and Lane. You already know those guys stacks together when they're playing together.
And they got chemistry together. So you got two sides. Both your tackles and your guards are building really good chemistry. And you got Kelsey in the middle there, who's orchestrating all the traffic. And see that line. If they stay healthy, that's the thing. I hate saying that. If they stay healthy, but yeah, that third one, I'd probably say, if I had to go, I'd probably say Milton Williams, because Tui Pelotu, I thought the defensive tackle or 6th round pick, I thought he would be really, really good. I thought
Why don't they play him?
To me, he hasn't warranted.
Have you seen him in practice? Does he look like is he making any kind of moves in practice?
The defensive linemen practice on a far field, so it's very tough for us to see them on that one. But when in the games he has played in, he's getting blown off the ball. He's his tech. I don't know if it's with his technique. He's not shooting off. He's not very physical, and he's shooting up very high too. So he's getting blown off the ball, and it's like I wouldn't feel comfortable putting him. I'd rather keep going with Williams as well too. I think Williams has shown some good versatility inside and out. Whenever they do show 3-4 looks, I think he's good in that defensive end technique.
Do you think he's just maybe because that injury he had? You think this is just like that first year after the injuries, so maybe we see a lot more from him, better play from him next year?
See, they put him in act. They've made him inactive so many times. They allowed him basically to rest. You think he had some rest after that time, and I thought he would play a lot better because even I still remember this summer when he was on Sirius XM, and he was talking to one of the former USC coach. He was like, "Yeah, I can't wait to come to Philadelphia because it reminds me a lot of the scheme I played with in college." It was perfect. If you know that already, but to me, he just plays too high, and it's not enough. He's not physical enough at the point of attack, and his hands. He always seems to get washed. He always lets the offensive lineman get into his pads. Mm-hmm. You got to be, especially there. You got to be violent. You can't let him get inside because once you're inside you're done. And he doesn't do that a lot. So Tui Pelotu, I just said Jacoby Stevens. I think it's a numbers game. I thought he would be all right. I thought he'd be all right, especially being a linebacker, safety hybrid guy. It could be a big.
Is he looking good in practice though?
It's limited. It's so limited when we see him. Literally, we got about 10-15 minutes, and we look around, and we see it. And when I do look over there, I mean, they're usually doing the back pedal drills. He's moving around fine. They do the read react, especially linebackers. They do the read react drills. He's looking fine when he's doing that stuff. It's just the only spot I see him right now is special teams. If there's an issue on special teams, and he was protected, I think, earlier this week. So in case there's another injury, but those are probably the guys I'd say right now would be the ones I'd probably say. Zach McPherson, he's still learning. He's still a work in process. I think so as a special teamer, I like him as a special teamer, but at the cornerback position, I still think there's some things he has to work through to see some steady time on the field.
What about Gainwell? Why isn't he getting more carries?
I think they see him as more of a receiving threat, third down threat, because I think this is interesting a lot too. When it comes to time to practice, he's practicing a lot with the wide receivers. When it comes to running routes, he does that a lot. So I think they see him more as he can still run the ball. So it's an instinct for him. He can still run the ball. I can see him being used more in those sprint draws. I can see, if anything, I see him this week, especially with all the other, with Howard being out, and potentially if Scott is out with the illness. I know he's questionable, but if Scott's out, we used to hear all the time about, especially early on, about that Nick Sirianni talking about the speed package and him and Sanders in the backfield at the same time. This would be the perfect week to use it, to put it on tape and have teams look and say, okay, how do you defend this, and to get teams thinking. But I looked at it, I think early on, I think he had some issues when it came to pass blocking. And also, when you have the depth they have so far running this ball, I mean, to put Gainwell in, who are you taking out? Sanders,
Scott.
No, they're not going to take him out. Scott, even when Scott's going well, I know he had the fumble. When Scott's going, he's looking good in that. Because the one thing I will say that I like that Scott does that I wish Sanders did more was he's decisive and he's patient, especially on those outside zone runs where they're running. When he's patient enough to let the blocks develop. Then when he sees it open, he puts his foot down and he goes. He's not dancing around, and he puts a foot down and he heads north and south. So I thought that he does that very well. I think Gainwell's still decent, but I just think when you have all these guys available, when you have Sanders potential, the way Howard and Scott have been running the ball in the last few weeks before Howard got injured, I'd roll with those three before I go with Gainwell.
Yeah. So for me, I'm like, just how like when Mouse is out, right? Everybody's like, it's Howard's team. He should be the star running back. That's what we've been missing. We've been wanting that all year. And I go, well, then you look at the stats when he came back. You know what I'm saying? Howard had more carries, less yards. Sanders has less carries, more yards. You know what I'm saying? They're just more explosive players on the field. That yes, they do the dancing around, but hey, Barry Sanders, the number one dancer of all time, probably has the most negative runs ever in history, but he's still the best running back ever to touch the field. When you got those kind of guys, Shady McCoy was another one that liked to dance a lot. Westbrook danced a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you gotta let these guys play their game. You're gonna get more positive yards than negative yards by the end of that game.
See, I think it's a little bit more. You see a lot of those P guys when they dance around. Like for every Barry Sanders, you have a Chris Polk. I know it's obscure, but like Chris, I remember he was dancing. We were watching him before, and he was dancing around. So like, I just don't see, especially with the way this offense runs, north south, especially behind these guys, the way they're blocking north south, just get as many yards as you can and pound them into submission. And I think this team, especially the way with the health risk that everybody's going. I mean, look how many guys remain healthy in this league right now at the running back position. I mean, look, Dalvin Cook is hurt right now. You got so many of the top tier guys are getting hurt. You need a committee. And I think everybody knows the rules. It's almost like a bullpen setting up. Everybody knows their rules. I like knowing that, hey, you know what? When you have Howard coming in after you see the shiftiness of Sanders, and you have Scott coming in after you've seen the Howard pounding the ball, and then you have Sanders and Scott coming in with the speed, the quickness, and the different stuff. I think that's having a committee like that makes your running game a lot more effective too.
Yeah, I definitely think once they're both back there, when you got Howard and Sanders, they complement each other very well. Let Howard beat him up while Sanders breaks off the big runs. You know what I'm saying? So I do like that, but I'm just saying in terms of like who's the best running back in that backfield. Who should get the majority of all the carries. I just feel like Sanders is like head and shoulders above everybody else. And, I want to see Gainwell do more of like, coming in the back, line up in the backfield, motion out the slot, and let him do his little pass plays that he like to do there, you know what I'm saying? Or use them in the screen game a lot more. I feel like we don't even get diverse in that aspect. We do the same little, bubble screens, quick screens to the receivers, but, we don't see as many running back screens that we used to see before, like with Brian Westbrook. We could give him that Brian Westbrook, Darren Sproles type role where you're just popping them out some screens from all over the field. There's lots of ways you can do it,
I think if you're going to use Gainwell as well too, I think if you need to just let him run the ball, run the ball, because I think a lot of teams look in when he's coming in and just like, okay, it's more than likely going to be a pass, or it's a lot more likely going to be a pass, and he's going to be an outlet in case everything's not open downfield. So I say run a couple sprint draws, run a couple even just regular, not just hand the ball off. I mean, not his own read type aspect, but let him run the ball so teams have to start respecting that running game, and instead of like bringing them in when teams are in a nickel or dime, especially dime, which is on third and longs, just let him run the ball, hope that he get a crease up the middle of the field, and let him go into space and try to maneuver around that way. I'd probably want to see a couple more of those if they're going to use them a little more, and then allow them to set up with the little swing passes. And you're right about when you just look at the traditional screen game, they don't do it as much. And I want to know, I'm wondering, this is all speculation. I don't know if it's more of a word about the timing thing down, because the team seems to have issues when they run into RPOs with guys going downfield. And I don't know if it's more of a timing thing where between the rollout to the throw to the lineman getting enough. I don't know if it's happening right now, but they seem to have issues with RPOs with that. So it's interesting because they don't do the traditional screens on that way too. But I wonder if that has something to do with it.
But do you think, like, remember how we just talked about that in terms of like keeping it simple to the point where like that might make these guys think too much on the same play. Like, why have we opened up the playbook? Okay, because I messed up this time. You know what I'm saying? To the point where when you're doing the same thing over and over again, just trying to get that right, you're thinking too much about it instead of keeping it, free flow. You know what I'm saying? We did get a lot of penalties with the RPO, but But
It's
at the
almost got
same
to the point
time,
it's taken out the playbook now. I remember Nick saying it's like Nick's away from like it was pretty much like we barely call it anymore because we're getting penalties started left and right.
right? And you hear this report. That's a good one, Grant. He says, Chris, who's in the Eagles organization is pounding the table for Russell Wilson. I did see a report saying that the owner wanted Hurts and Howie wanted Russ or vice versa like that. Have you heard anything about that at all?
Nothing concrete, but mostly I remember that report. Jeff McClain in the Inquirer, he had that report where saying that Hurts, Lurie likes Hurts. It feels like he can still be the guy, and Howie's not as sure that that's the case. To me, I don't even think. And it's curious that all these rumors are coming out now saying Russ, and I'm trying to figure like how Joe Banner. Maybe Joe Banner knows Russ's age a little bit more, but I remember seeing a report back in January, February, and Russ was having his issues with the Seahawks initially. Russ eventually said he wants to become an executive and become a general manager or something like that. He wants a lot of say personnel because one day down the line he wants to be in the NFL front office. And to me, I don't see that happening in Philadelphia, especially with Howie Roseman and everything else. The reason why I say the Giants is I think Gettleman's going after this year. I don't think he's going to be the general manager. He may resign. They may promote him to a president position and just let him go, or they may just say, okay, yeah, it's your time with the organization's gone. If that's the case, I think that's the perfect time to bring in Russ. You find the general manager who's willing to work with Russ when it comes to personnel decisions and everything else, and that's a natural thing. And also, I wouldn't be shocked if Russ goes, okay, New York, that's the number one media market. Let me work my way magic that way too to give some options to go elsewhere. So that's what the Russell Wilson stuff. I also know that we could constantly heard since 2012 when he was on the board how much the Eagles wanted him too. So I understand where that part comes from, but I just don't see. I just have a tough time seeing Russ actually coming here, waving his no trade clause, saying, "Hey, I want to go to Philadelphia," with the way the current front office dynamics currently are right now.
Yeah, I see like he's getting involved in other stuff besides football. You know what I'm saying? He's he got Sierra and his whole family thing going on there. He's always doing different things. He's out there. Like I said, I think we need to stay with we already got the young core together. This is perfect situation. Let them all grow together. You know what I'm saying? You wanted the young squad. You got the young squad. Let these guys grow together. Because even if you look at the line in terms of Lane Johnson and Brooks, like you said, we got Herbert and, Jack Driscoll that we could probably plug in there. And they can, they're developing good for their second year players. You know what I'm saying? Next year will be a whole nother year. And hopefully they could develop to be some of the top linemen in the league. So,
and this is a joke, but the only good thing I would want to see if Russell Wilson did come to the East is would Future come in the opposing team jersey and start booing Russ whenever he messes up because Sierra was there. That's the only thing I'd be like, okay, is this going to happen? But other than that, that's funny a couple times. But nah, I just don't see him coming here.
Do you think we're going to win this week against the Jets?
Yep, I have it 27-17. Like going into it, if they had beaten the Giants, this would have been the game I would have been worried about. I still think they would have won, but I would have been worried about them going right. There's a young team going into the buys late into the season. The Jets defensively can be okay. Offensively, I'm still not sold on Zach Wilson personally.
Yeah.
You have trouble throwing to the flat, but that's the quarterback.
Right?
But I think they win this week. I think you'll see. I think you'll see the return of run. They'll rely. This is a tailor-made game for Miles Sanders. It truly is because he runs the Jets' weakness when it comes to defending run. The Jets are 27th, I believe, when it comes in the league in run defense. Their issue is their right defensive line when it comes to stopping a run. The Eagles' strength running the ball is the left side of that line between Mile and Dickerson, and Sanders runs his best to the left. It just sets up so much for him to have a big day. I think the defense will. I think Darius Slay gets a pick. I think you may see. I think Zach Wilson turns the ball over at least twice. I just think that's going to happen, and they're going to force him into some mistakes, and the Eagles win 27-17.
How do you feel about Slay? You think he's going to make an All-Pro this year?
I think so. I think he's warranted. I think he's warranted that. I mean, between Diggs and I think for the NFC, I think it's Diggs and Slay. I think those are your two top corners. And you look at that, I think Slay has been. Oh, that trade looks. Now you look at that trade, you start looking like they only gave him a third or fifth. It's like okay, that works out well. And he's the type of guy, and I'll say this: I know a lot's made about the plays he makes, the interceptions and the returns and everything. The one thing that I've seen that I've been really impressed is how he's starting to take a lot of these younger corners under his wing.
Mhm.
And you see him like when he's doing during practice, he jokes, but he says he brings along a guy like Mac McCain. He brings along a guy like Tay Gowan. You see him talking to him and like, hey, maybe you want to do this more, maybe sit that for it. He's playing that mentor role. So especially with all those young corners you have that you may have to rely on next year, if they bring in if they say, hey, we're moving on Steve Nelson and they don't draft a guy, but they want to break one of those guys, they're going to need one of those two to step in. And he's taking that wing of being, hey, I'm one of the leaders of the cornerback room, and I want to make sure to help you guys out. So I thought that was something that I've been impressed. That's the thing I've been most impressed with when it comes to Slade. It's funny too, but yeah.
And then Maddox getting a Pro Bowl.
I don't see that. I think when it comes to the Pro Bowl, I think they're going to just select the best corners overall. Maddox has played very well, but I don't foresee him getting it. If I had to say guys that would make the Pro Bowl overall on his team, I think Elliott has a shot. I think Sean Bradley has a spot in the special teams guy. Slay, I think's in. I think Javon Hargrave is in. I think he's done enough to be in there. Offensively, Mailata, I think, should be in. See, Kelsey, I think deserves to be in, but I think he's going to get. I don't think he's going to get the votes.
If Hurst ends up with over 3,000 yards and 1,000 yards rushing, did that get him in?
No, I think they're going to go with. I think a lot of it's going to go on because a lot of things you got to worry about reputation. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Cox got in and Kelsey got out, and I'll say that only based on reputation. Because a lot of these guys go like this or the reputation part, because the fan vote I think is like 1/3 of it or something like that.
No,
so that's why I wouldn't be surprised if like Cox got in or based off of reputation and Kelsey was out. But I think Kelsey deserves to be in, and Cox doesn't. But I think it'd be one of those things.
I think Cox is a Pro Bowler this year. Not yet.
Nah.
If he goes on a nice little tear these last couple of games, maybe. But for what he's done already, no.
I think he'd have to have Javon numbers. Yep, that's him. And they rarely take both defensive tackles from one team. The other guy.
What about Devontae Smith? If he finishes off strong with 1,000 yards receiving, you think he can make it in there?
I don't think so, but you know who I think could be like a first or second. I think a second alternate on the Pro Bowl team could be Dallas Goedert, just based on defensive end, the tight ends in that one. Can you imagine this? I think the Pro Bowl's in Vegas. Is it in Vegas this year? I think it is. I think it's in Vegas. But you have Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert reuniting one more time when NFC team just wants. I think could potentially see that, like, because guys will just say, "Yeah, I'm hurt. My ankle hurts." No, it doesn't. My ankle hurts.
Right.
I want the gift bag. That'll be great. But
speaking of tight ends, what's up with Tyree Jackson, man?
For me, I think it's his blocking. Because for me, I think I'll make it a positive sandwich. I'll start with the good and the bad. I love Family Guy. Sorry. The positive part, he's doing a very good job of clearing out routes underneath, like especially that first game he played. I think it was I want to say it was Watkins. Was it Watkins or Smith? Where his just a sheer size, he ran down the middle of the seam. They had Watkins or Smith go run a little arrow route behind him because the defensive back couldn't come over him, and so it cleared out some room. So I thought that was nice that you can do those types of routes. His blocking needs some work. His blocking truly needs some work, and just like we were talking about Tui Pelotu coming out high, he blocks extremely high, and you're that tall, and you're trying to block defensive ends. He's giving up a lot of weight to begin with, and he's blocking really high, and he's getting pulled back, and he's not being as effective. So, and especially as a tight end, I know we talk a lot about tight ends being able to catch the pass over the middle and everything else, but his blocking needs to improve there. Now, the last positive thing, he's still young, he's still learning the position, he's still learning the nuances in and out, so he could get better. But I think, especially with Nick Sirianni, how much he wants to run a lot of 11 personnel, I think the Eagles were in like the top 10 and how much 11 personnel they run, and it's carrying over base from the when the Colts too. It's like a right tree. They like to run a lot of 11 personnel, so that means you just have Goddard on the field a lot. I still think it's one of those things where he's still, even when he's on there, he's good in like the blocking things. He has that threat of he could be a threaten the goal line just because of his sheer height, but he still needs to work on his blocking to be on the
He's
field
like he
more
got to
than
earn
track.
his way to get the catches.
Yep. And
Like,
also, who are you going to throw it? They need to, because when you look at the goal line, when it comes to throwing, who are you going to throw to? Like, height wise, like if you just see somebody to throw out ends zone, like where you throw it to the receiver, nobody else is catching it. You have Dallas Goedert, who's bigger, but teams are going to be looking for him around that area. Smith can maneuver around and find an open spot. Okay, you got that, but who else are you going to throw to? I mean, we saw the Greg Ward experiments down in their goal line. I just wish that were in.
horrible. They need to stop throwing the ball. That's not the first drop. You know what I'm saying? How do you feel? Because I feel like this. Don't put the bench warmers in the red zone. Like, if these guys, if you want to get them some PT, let them do it between the 20s. You know, when you get these red zone situations, only your starters and your best players should be able to fill. You know, we've seen a lot of touchdowns this year. Either A, get dropped, or B, you know, we got a flag for, you know, blocking wrong, or, you know, illegal procedure type things with these guys that don't play that much, like the JJs, you know, the Wards and those type of guys. Like, I don't know why he keeps doing it.
We were talking about earlier about like who you replace Rager with and stuff like that. That's a guy I'm shocked he hasn't gotten as many snaps as he can, because I think when you look at Ward, he's not going to be a burner down the field, but he's shown in the past. I mean, that was your leading receiver last year, receptions wise, and he's barely getting any burn now. So that's a guy I can see if they ran his third down. To me, Greg Ward equals Jason Avant around that time. Yeah, that's his role. That's the way he plays well. But when you're bringing a guy in cold, who's not really getting a lot of snaps, not getting a lot of balls thrown his way, and then you decide to throw him at the goal line on a sprint right option on the short side of the field, I just wouldn't go that way. So I think it'll be in the Eagles' best interest to hope that Tyree Jackson develops into a good goal red zone threat, because then I think that lessens the pressure on for Smith and Goddard and everybody else. Because right now, you lock those two guys
He
up.
get him in the game, but you're just not even throwing it his way. Like, forget the blocking for now. I know you want to make him earn it, you know, earn your targets, but man, use his height and just go to him sometime. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think he even have a target this year.
Yeah, he's got a target. I know they tried to throw at him on a couple. I think it went high. I think they're basically he's got. I think he may have a couple targets. I got to look it up. But even then, another thing too is when his route running. I think teams are also looking at the preseason tape, because they knew when Flacco was throwing the ball, it was right in the middle. It was right in the stop routes, and it's like, oh, we know where he's going. And then and that's another thing too. Like, his route running could be a little bit more polished too. You see him throw. You see it's getting better, but it could be a little bit more polished. He's round, instead of like being that crisp, put the plant, he's rounding some things at times. And it's like, so it could be better. Like, there's tools to work with. He's just got to get used to playing the position.
And Grant, I know he answered this already, but I see you keep putting it up here. I'm going to let him see if he can answer it for you again. He says, with the 3 first-round picks, which prospects do you want?
In the last mock I had Tuesday, I had him getting Sauce Gardner 8, Kyle Hamilton 9, because I think, even though I think Hamilton is like a top 5 talent, him not playing at all with that knee injury, and him potentially not playing in Notre Dame, well, I think it's safe to say Notre Dame won't be making the playoffs because Brian Kelly left. So why even play?
He got hurt? Hamilton got hurt?
Yeah, he's got a knee injury. Yeah, he hasn't played, I think, in the last 5-6 games or something like that.
Was it a bad one, like a torn or something?
It's not torn. No, I think it's like a sprain or something like that.
Okay, because I'm like, no, we cannot go down the
No. It's not torn. No. They expect. They even said, like, if he was coming back, if Notre Dame made the playoff, they expected him to be back. But now, I don't think the playoff committee is going to select him because Kelly's gone. Fair or not, I don't think they shouldn't. Personally, I think it has to be number 4. But that's a whole other target for something else. But I think when you look at what he's doing there, it's no sense for him to come back. I mean, might as well sit out the rest of the season. And because what are you going to play? You can't not playing a thing. We're going to go to Fiesta Bowl and against somebody else. Like, gosh, who do they bring in? Like, because Cincinnati. That's a whole other story. But yeah, I don't think it's coming back. And then I had Green, the guard. I think he's a guard. He can play guard and tackle. And I think that's a guy who can. I truly think they still trade down, but I think if they stay pat and that 3rd pick, I had Green. And I thought Green could be a guy who, from Texas A&M, who you can use in that right guard role, be the heir apparent for Brandon Brooks. And then if there's something that's
And
a
start
pinch,
his
then you can use him as
first year
tackle.
in. If we got rid of Brandon, he'll be able to jump right in there and start. Or that guy that you're gonna have to develop probably a year. Hope that you let Herbert play most of it, and then he'll work his way into there.
He could play guard right away because he's played for most of his career. He's played guard. They were thinking about moving him out to tackle, but they kept him in the interior. And I think he's better suited for guard too. But I think if you keep him in that guard, you got Brandon Brooks' replacement, and you can go from there.
Yeah. How do you see the rest of this after the bye? We go Washington, Giants, right? Washington, Cowboys. What's the Eagle going to do there?
I think they finish. They split with Washington. See, it's that last game that I don't know what's going on. That's the part. They split. You almost in a way you hope that Washington fades a little bit. And you hope the Eagles fade, but not too far. That they get it. I think they split with Washington. They beat the Giants. It's that last game. I don't know. It's tough. I don't. If the Cowboy, even if the Cowboys need that game to say move from the 4th to the 3rd seed or something like that, I think the Cowboys win that game. If the Cowboys don't need that game and they rest up all their guys, I think the Eagles win that. And how interesting would that be, especially if the Eagles needed that game to get into the playoffs, and the Cowboy, it was the Giants were like right behind them, Washington's right behind them, and the Cowboys pull all their guys after a half, and the Eagles back into it the same way they let Washington back into it last year. I just want to see New York go off again or that.
Right?
Get close. That would be fun to watch on that, but I see it's something.
Because look, we got 5 games left, right?
Yeah, I think they.
Do you think the Cowboys could lose 2 more games by that Week 17 matchup and that game before the division?
I think they could. But I just don't see it. I think because
they beat the Saints, man. We beat the Saints even worse.
I think the Cowboys get it because Dak has his safety blanket back in Amari Cooper, and that's the thing. Like when Cooper's been out, Dak doesn't look right, but when he's back in, it seems like that offense clicks a lot better. So that's where I see the Cowboys. Yeah, the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys finish the East, and I think that actually might be a good thing for the Eagles to have the Cowboys wrap it up very early, so they can start resting players.
Mm.
Yeah, the Eagles need the Cowboys to basically wrap it up early. Need the Buccaneers, the Packers, and the Cardinals to just go on a tear so that the Cowboys know that they can't get higher than.
Because that's the Cowboys' end of their schedule.
Yeah.
Washington, New York, Washington, Arizona, us. You think they're probably split with Washington, right?
They'll split with Washington.
Who won the first matchup with the Giants?
I forget offhand.
The Cowboys?
I think I think it doesn't matter. I think the Cowboys win that game.
That game. Arizona?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. They lose to Arizona. Well, the thing is, I think they lose to Arizona. I think Arizona's still going to be fighting for that 1 seed at the time.
That's 2 games right there.
But you got to look at the Eagles. They got to go on a tear too.
And we have to win out, obviously, to make that relevant and make that come to fruition.
And I don't even see that. I just don't see that happening. I think Washington's one team. Like if it wasn't Ron Rivera as the head coach down there, I'd think like, okay, they have a shot. But Ron Rivera seems to get his teams playing well late in the season, so especially the last few years. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
They Washington's gonna split with both of us.
Yep,
they're gonna get those wins.
And Washington's gonna make it interesting
the case,
too.
Then we're looking at maybe Washington. What was their record? Washington is what 5-6,
and they hold the 7th seed right now too.
And they hold the 7th seed. And this is their schedule: Vegas, Dallas, Eagles, Dallas, Philly, Giants.
So I got them splitting there. Split when the Cavs 2-2. I think they beat Vegas in Vegas. I really truly think that. So 3-2. Yeah, I think they beat. And the Giants game. See, it's all. I think we'll have a better sense after the next 2 weeks because that last week could be very, very wild. I just hope now from the writer part of me, I'm just hoping like please don't make that Eagles game the 8:30 game because I don't want to be out of the link about like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, like trying to write out what the end of the season. And that's where we go at. But that last week, you know what? If that's the case where all the teams are within a half game, they're probably going to make that the 4 o'clock slots games because the they'll want to go in concurrently. They don't want to give anybody a favor saying, okay, OA lost and so I can see them all. I can see them putting all the NFC East games around 4:00 because those will be the most intriguing
last
matches
week
left. Yep, I can see that happening, but it all depends on they are going to win. It's craziness. The NFL knew what they were doing when they were doing this. It's messed up,
right? Man, though, that's even looking at that schedule too. Like, I think Vegas could beat them.
It's possible too, but
I think it's possible we can sweep them. I feel like we should have swept somebody in the division this year. And since we can't say the Cowboys and we can't say the Giants anymore, maybe that's just the team that it has to happen to.
It should have been the Giants, but they missed out on that one too. It should have been, but yeah.
So, and then how many wins is that? If we just say hypothetically we sweep them and they just win one of the Dallas and in New York, that gives them what, 7 wins? That wouldn't be enough. No, I don't think
this is why I was an English major, because after a while the math started going. Like after a while, things like, nah, I'm good. If 2x plus 5, nah, I'm good.
So I'm just thinking like with Cowboys they're 8-4 because they already played this week though. So like that changes once we all play this week too. And then next week we got a bye because we're 1 game ahead of everybody. So next week bye week is going to be another big week to see who wins. That'll be their game against Dallas. Who wins that game? So if they can pull out one of those, then that could be we could be going into that Washington game with 1 game behind the Cowboys again. Yeah, if we win Sunday.
And then the Cowboys have to buy the Cowboys have a tiebreaker. So if they split, then it goes to conference opponents. I think it's the next tiebreaker after they got the division.
And we're 0-2 in division.
Yeah, the Cowboys have the better division record right now. This is why the Giants game really hurts them, because the Cowboys have the edge right now in that. And then I think even if they somehow found a way to tie that up, the Cowboys have the edge when it comes to conference wins. And then you start getting to the common opponents and the shared points for, and that's where it gets fun. I just want to see once it comes down to a coin toss. They have that in there. It comes division can be decided by a coin toss. I just want to see it once happen that way.
That'd be tight. The Eagles win. Now it comes down to a coin toss. Who gets the division? Someone's gonna be the 4th seed, or someone's gonna be the 7th seed.
I think if gun to my head right now, I think Cowboys win the East, and I think the Washington finishes as a 7th seed. It's gun to my head. I just see that.
You think Washington's gonna keep it?
Gun to my head. I just see it happening that way.
So we might as well just lose out then and get better draft pick.
Oh, yeah. I see. You keep the guys in there now. You keep them in there because you want to get them used to like playing pressure filled football. But then once they're mathematically eliminated, then you put all the young guys in there. Let them go. Let them run. I
still feel like we got a shot for the division.
Shot.
I'm optimistic, but until we don't, so would that be what? Basically, we'll have to lose this week, and then Cowboys have to win next week too. Then we'll be completely out because there may only be 3 games left.
Yeah.
But until that happens, I'm right.
Anything's possible. Well, anything's possible.
The Cowboys this November, December, just when they lose their games, and that had to look that great over the last 4 games.
Right. Yeah. Anything's possible. Anything's possible right now. It's a crazy. This year's crazy. This year's going off the rails to begin with, anyway. So yeah, anything's possible at this point.
Well, hey man, we almost at an hour and a half. Thank you again for coming on the show, my guy. We covered everything. At least you have the Birds winning this week, and that is a plus, man. That is a plus. We definitely want to win this week, and we'll see what happens, man. That Washington game is going to be big on our bye week. You know what I'm saying, and see, who wins that game. Now, I feel like do you want to root for, Dallas, or do you want to root for Washington to win that game? Kind of like last night with the Saints. For the division, you're rooting for the Saints. For, the wild card spot, you're rooting for Dallas to keep winning.
It'll never be it'll be interesting to watch. We can't root for anything. We just gotta be observed. We gotta observe from the outside. We're like the watchers. We're just sitting like, oh, what's going on here? Okay, we have that here. So yeah, it's interesting to watch, but it's going to be these last few weeks. They're not going to be boring to put it. So like, it's going to be some entertaining football to watch.
Like, they knew what they were doing when they set up the schedule this way.
Yep. Even a late bye too. That was like, oh come on, week 13. Come on now.
My boy Grant said how I always do the fly eagle fly dance at the end. He wants to see if you will do the fly eagle fly
I
dance.
can't do it, man. Reporter decorum says I can't do it. I can't.
Oh, we can't get. We
Reporter
tried,
decorum.
Grant.
Yeah,
We
we're
tried,
not
Grant.
allowed, man. I'm impartial. I gotta be impartial. I can't do dance nothing like that.
Hey, Grant, we tried, my guy. But hey, man, thanks again. Let everybody know where they can find your reports and everything like that out, my guy.
So yeah, if you guys are on Twitter, you go to C Franklin News. Same with Instagram, C Franklin News. If you guys want to read nj.com/Eagles, me and my partner Mike K, beat partner Mike K, we got everything up to date. Or if you want to listen to the No Auto Show podcast, we'll be talking. We just put one out once a week, and we talk about the Eagles stuff that's going on, and we go from there. And thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, tell Mike too to check his DMs, my guy. I be blowing him up. Hey, man, thanks again for coming by. Fly, Eagles, fly. Till next time, it's BIRDGANG 31, and we are out. Peace.